Welcome to the series of everything you need to know about Python in simplest possible way. In our previous videos, while discussing list, we have seen so many important concepts and so many important methods to handle list, right? So in this video, we will be knowing some of the important methods that helps us to solve the problems regarding of list. So let's go ahead and see what are the methods that we have in order to solve the list problems effectively. So we have different methods. We have count, sort, reverse, len, min, max, sum. All these are having their own uniqueness, their own specialty while solving the problem. So let us start and do one after the other. So first we will be starting with this particular count. So how this count helps is that let's say you are having the list, right? So when you wanted to count how many number of elements are present, how many number of specific elements are present. So let us go ahead and understand with some examples. Let's say I'm having this particular list 1 here. So inside of this particular list 1, I might be having 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3. Like this, I am having all of these elements inside of the list, right? So in this list, we are having some elements which are repeating. So I wanted to know a specific element is repeated how many number of times. So for that reason, I will use this particular list and I will use this particular count. So inside of this particular count, I need to pass the element that I am searching for. Let's say I am using this particular 3, and if I execute this, we are getting 3 because this particular 3 is present 3 times in this particular list. You can see one is here and another one is here, and at last we are having one more 3. Let's say if I pass 2 here and if I execute this, we can see 2 is coming 2 times. One is here and second one is here. Let's say if I pass 1 here, we can see 1 is also coming 2 times. One is one time here and second time here. Like this, whenever we wanted to count a specific element repeated how many number of times inside of a list, in such case we can use this particular count. So we will see with different examples. Let's say I'm having this particular list 1. So inside of this particular list 1, I have 1, 2, 3, 2. And apart from that, if I have one more list inside of a list, let's say inside of this particular list, I am having 2 and 3. Let's say I will call this particular count method by using this particular 2. 2 is present 1, 2, 3. Totally 2 is present 3 times by including the 2 inside of this particular list, which is considered as nested list, right? So if I pass 2 and if I execute this, we can only see 2 is repeating 2 times, which is only considering the 2 is present here and here, which is not considering the 2 which is present inside of this particular list, which is the nested list. So by this, you can able to understand the count will be considered only the individual elements like this, not in the iterable. So I hope you can able to understand that. So this will be applied for the strings also, strings, list, tuple, any iterable for that matter. It will be only considering the elements which are not in the iterable, which are only considered as unique elements. So if I use list1.count, if I pass this particular list itself, which is nothing but 2 and 3 present inside of the list. So if I execute this, we can able to see 1 because this particular list is considered as a single element, and when we pass this particular list to count, it is getting as 1 because that is present. Let's say if I pass any element that is not present in the list, let's say I will pass 5 here, and if I execute this, you can able to see the result is 0 because 5 is not present inside of the list. Because of that reason, the count is giving as 0. So I hope you can able to understand all the important things regarding of this particular count. So whenever we wanted to know a specific element repeated how many number of times, we can use count by passing that particular specific element. And if that specific element is present inside of a nested list or any iterable for that matter, it won't consider, it only consider the element as a unique element, inside of this particular list. So if you pass any element that is not present in the list, it will return 0 because the element is not present, it won't counted, right? So for that reason only we will be getting 0. I hope you can able to understand all the things regarding this particular count. So let us go ahead and see one more method that we have, which is nothing but sort. What this sort do is that the name itself specifying that it is used to sort the elements. Let's say I will take this particular list 2. Inside of this particular 2, I will be having 20, 30, 10, 50, 40, like that. I am having the elements which are not in the sorted order, right? So if I use this particular sort, it will be sorted. So I will show you list2 dot sort. So after that, if I print this particular list2, and before this particular sort also, I will print this particular list2, and if I execute this, you can see the result. Previously, before calling this particular sort, we are getting the elements not in the sorted order, as like we are giving the list. So after that, after calling this particular sort, when we print this particular list2, we are getting the list which is in the sorted order. So I hope you can able to understand how you can use effectively this particular sort in order to sort the elements. Let us see with a different kind of examples. Let's say I am taking this particular list 2. So inside of this particular list 2, what I will be doing is that I will consider different type of elements, heterogeneous elements. So for that, I am taking 20. I will consider one more list inside of this particular list. So in this list, I will consider, let's say, 50 and 10 here. So after that, I will consider a string like, and after that I will consider a tuple. We will discuss later about this tuple. Tuple also considered as container. So here I will be giving 2 and 4. So after that, if I call this particular sort, and if I print the result after this particular sort, if I execute this, you can able to see less than is not supported between instance of list and integer. Why it is giving is that this particular sort is used to perform some operations internally, right? So whenever we are calling this particular sort method, inside of this particular sort, there is a function is defined that uses this particular less than symbol, which used to compare the elements present in the inside of the list. So when we are having a different type of elements which are integer value and as well as this particular list values, it was saying it is not possible to compare this particular less than symbol between list and integer. Because of that reason, it was giving error. Let's say if I remove this, we have understood that, right? So we cannot have the different elements. One is integer and another one is list. So I will remove this particular list, and if I execute this, it was again telling that less than is not supported between string and integer type. We are having a string and we are having a integer values. Between those two values, we cannot perform this particular less than operation. So I will remove this particular less than this particular string also, and I'm having this particular integer values and tuple. And if I execute this, it was still telling tuple and int cannot have this particular less than operation. And if I remove this particular tuple also, if I execute this, we can see the result. We are having 10 and 20. So I hope by this you can able to understand this sort works whenever you are having homogeneous elements only, which means that the elements present inside of a list will have same type of elements. So I will explain with one more example here. Let's say I will take list 2, and inside of this particular list 2, I will have, let's say, like here, and this is a string, right? I will have one more subscribe string here, subscribe here, and like this, I am having some of the elements, let's say zil. So like that, I am having this particular elements inside of this particular list 2. So if I call list2 dot sort, and if I print list2 here, list2, and if I execute this, we can able to see the result, whatever the element that we have presented after sorting. Let's say I will take this particular zil and I will put at the beginning of this particular list, and if I execute this, still you are getting this particular zil coming at the end. So by this you can able to understand when we have same type of elements present inside of a list, then only this particular sort will work. So let's say I will take one more example with a list inside of a list. Let's say I am having a list, and inside of a list I will have one more list. I will have one and 2, and after that I will have let's say 2 and 3. After that I will have this particular 3 and 4. So we are having nested lists inside of this particular list, right? So what I will be doing is that list2 dot sort, and after that I will print this particular list2 here. And now if I execute this, you can able to see the result. At least we are getting result because this particular comparison operation will be happen between the lists in the list. So because of that reason we are getting the result. If I take this particular list here, and if I mention at the beginning, and if I execute this, still we are getting the same result, which means that this sort operation is happening between the lists in here. So you can see 1, 2 is coming here, 2, 3 coming here, and 3, 4 coming here. This comparison operator that we have seen in our previous videos, it will happen element by element. By that, we will be getting the sorted list. So I hope by this you can able to understand the process of this particular list. Whenever you are calling this particular list, make sure that you are having the homogeneous elements inside of a list, which means same type of elements inside of a list. When you don't have same type of elements, it will return an error. So I hope you can able to understand that. Apart from this, we can pass one more argument, which is nothing but reverse. So I will mention this particular reverse. We can pass the Boolean elements. So by default, this reverse having false, and if I mention true here, and if I execute this, you can see the difference. We are getting 3, 4 at the beginning, 2, 3 after that, and 1, 2 at the end. By using this particular reverse, we can actually reverse the sorted elements. We are getting the result in the descending order. Previously, we used to get the result in the ascending order. I hope you can able to understand this reverse parameter also. So like this, we can able to sort the elements inside of a list when we have homogeneous elements, which means same type of elements. So let us go ahead and see one more method that we have, which is nothing but reverse. So previously this reverse and this reverse have little difference. Let us understand that. Let's say I am having this particular list 2, list 3. Inside of this, let's say I am having 30, 40, 50, and 10 here. So if I call list 3 dot reverse, and if I print the result list 3, if I execute this, we can able to see the reversed order 10, 50, 40, 30. So 30 is at the starting, we are getting 30 at the end. In the second element, we are having 40. From last, we are having second element as 40. Like that, this whole list is being reversed. But whenever we are using this particular sort, by calling this particular reverse, these whole elements will be sorted as 10, 30, 40, 50, and that sorted elements will get reversed. So that is the difference that we have. So to make you understand clearly, I will take this particular same list and I will explain you this particular sort. So let's say I will call this particular list 3 dot sort here, and after that what I will be doing is that I will pass this particular reverse as true. So at the end I will print this particular list 3 here, and if I execute this, we can able to see the whole list is coming in the descending order, which means greater element as starting, and later we are getting the reduced elements. Whereas in this particular reverse, the whole elements is getting reversed in the list. So I hope you can able to understand this particular reverse and the reverse that we have in this particular sort, each having their own uniqueness and we need to use accordingly. So I hope you can able to understand this particular reverse as well. So let us go ahead and see one more method that we have, which is nothing but len. So when and why we use this particular len is because whenever we wanted to know how many number of elements that we have inside of list, it is not restricted only to list. We can pass any iterable for that matter. So let us see how it works. Let's say I will have this particular list 4 here. Inside of this list 4, I will have 1, 2, 3, 4. Like this, I am having some elements. I too don't know how many number of elements that I have. So after that, let's say if I pass this particular len, and if I pass this particular list 4, and I will print the result, and if I execute this, we are getting 9, which means in this particular list we are having 9 elements. For that reason only we are getting the result as 9. So let's say if I pass a string here, so the string I will be considering which is like here, and if I execute this, we are getting 4, which means we can use this particular len in order to know how many values, how many elements that we have inside of an iterable. As list is considered as iterable, we can pass this particular list to len and know how many number of elements that we have inside of a list. So I hope you can able to understand this particular len, and you can effectively use this particular len whenever you are solving any kind of problem. This will be very useful whenever we are using for loops, right? So let us go ahead and see one more method that we have, which is nothing but min. So the name itself specifying that it will return the minimum value inside of a list. So I will take a list 5 here, and inside of this I will take some elements. So some elements I am taking, some random elements. So I will remove this, and here if I call this particular min, and by passing this particular list to 5, if I execute this, we can able to get the result which is 4, which means the 4 is having the minimum element. So it will return the first occurrence itself, which means the element in the 0th index. Let's say if I remove this particular 4 here and 4 here also, and if I execute this, we are getting 6, because now in this list the minimum element that we have, which is nothing but this particular 6 here. So in similar way, we will be also having this particular max. So as like min, by using this particular max, we can able to get the maximum value inside of a list. So I am calling this particular max by passing the list 5. If I execute this, we are getting the highest value, which is 443 inside of this particular list. Let's say if I remove a 3 here, and if I execute this, we are getting 63. Now after modifying this particular list, we are having the highest element, which is nothing but 63. Let's say if I include a string here, which may be L here, if I execute this, it was getting an error, greater than is not supported between a str and an integer. So as like we have seen with sort, the same thing applied for this particular min, max also. So that is not the case with this particular length. So this will return as it is, but the problem is with this particular min and max only. So whenever you are calling this particular min and max, you need to have homogeneous elements, which means the same type of elements inside of a list. So the same thing applied for this particular sum also. So the sum method, as the name specifies, it will add all the elements present inside of a list. So apart from that, one more thing that we need to consider is that it will only add the integer values. Let's say I will take list 6 here. So inside of this particular list 6, I will have the elements like this. And if I call this particular list 6 dot sum, not like this, we need to have this particular sum, and we need to pass this particular list 6. And if I execute this, we can able to see the result. We are getting the result as 15. 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, 6 plus 4 is 10, 10 plus 5, which is 15. The same result that we are getting with this particular list, with this particular sum. So let's say if I have another element, let's say I am having, let's say 5.5 here. If I execute this, we can able to see the result. We are getting the result. So let's say if I have a string here, if I execute this, it was getting an error, unsupported operand type for plus, which is float and str. Like this, you can able to understand whenever you are having the elements inside of the list, and when you call this particular sum, the supporting elements need to be there, which means that the operation of this particular place need to be happen between those elements. Let's say I will remove all of these integer elements, and I will just include this particular I here, and I will put a comma here, and if I execute this, you can see we are not getting the result unsupported operator for plus between integer and str. By this we can able to understand that this process of sum only happen with the integer values. Apart from integer values, if we pass any other values, it will won't get executed. So we need to pass the integer values always to this sum. So I hope you can able to understand this particular sum usage. So I also hope you have understood all of this method that we have discussed in this video, which will be very helpful whenever we are solving some kind of a problems. So we are using this particular count to know a specific elements is repeated how many number of times. Apart from that, this particular sort is used to sort the elements within a list. So we need to have same kind of elements inside of this particular list, then only we can use sort. After that, we have discussed this particular reverse, length to know how many number of elements inside of a list, min to know what is the minimum value, max to know what is the maximum value, sum to add all the elements inside of a list. So I hope you can able to understand all of this method explained in this inside of this particular video. If that is true, hit a like button. In the next video, we will be solving some of the problem by using all of these methods. So thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one. So to stay updated with my latest videos, subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification. So thank you for watching this video. See you in the next.